Kalen from Holistic Foot Clinic. So in this video we're going to be talking about some of the more common pediatric conditions we see coming into our clinic. Now often it's of course the parents who tend to notice these things, so it's pretty important for parents to keep an eye out for if children have any signs of things that might be a bit off. Of course there's a difference between normal growth and what you expect to see in a child. Of course they don't come out, well, normally not coming out of the womb running, and it can seem like a blink of an eye that they go from crawling to walking to running, okay? And it's very normal along that process for things to seem a bit odd and kids to stumble, but we want to make sure that nothing is happening that could be indicating deeper signs of something that needs to be addressed. So, in regards to muscle conditions or effectively how children look, two common things that happen when they're quite young, babies to toddlers, is toe walking and in-toeing. So that means either walking on the tips of the toes and not really bringing the heel down in a heel-toe pattern as they walk, and also of course in-toeing, the feet pointing inwards. Now these happen very commonly, especially in the early stages of walking, but you do kind of generally hope that they ease out and eventually disappear, especially as we get into the more kindergarten, primary school era. Okay, when it comes to things like flat feet, which is very common, just that foot kind of rolling in like that, this can be without pain, or this can even have a bit of heel pain or Achilles type pain. Now these are definitely things where if there's pain specifically, which can be hard when it's children, but if you think there's genuine pain going on there, it is worth getting in to be addressed, because this can mean either basic changes to the shoes and even some things just like little stretches that they need to do to ease it up. Hopefully not something more intense, but that's what we need to check out. If a child just has flat feet and doesn't necessarily have any pain, that is a risk that there is something that's going to happen. But I'm usually looking at the parents, mum or dad. If mum and dad also has flat feet and that's causing a problem, definitely that means it could be a bit of a risk for a child that you also want to get on top of. Commonly, once you get more into the running days and school, and especially teenagers, we get a lot of ankle sprains or rolling of the ankles. And this is something, of course, children are very flexible, they're going to roll their ankles very easily, but the key thing you want to keep on top of is how often it's happening. If it's happening, once a year, it's probably not that big a deal. But if you're getting into the area where, once a month, once a fortnight, once a week, you really do want to get control of it, because rolling an ankle isn't just an injury, it's something that compounds over time. So the more times a child rolls their ankle, it pretty much you end up with adults who can't even necessarily play a sport easily, if at all, because their ankles are just too traumatized over time. Okay. Now, another final thing, which may or may not be a problem, is knocked or bowed knees. So the knees either knocking in this way towards each other or bowing out that way away from each other. Again, as you go into adulthood, some adults do have knocked or bowed knees without problems, but for a lot of children, you do want to ideally see it develop into more of a straight, aligned structure. And of course, again, if there is pain, there's something often to be corrected, even just from footwear necessarily at the feet. Okay, so also something to look out for. And then of course, in regards to skin, anyone can get ingrown toenails, but people will be surprised. I've actually seen sometimes people under the age of 1 with ingrown toenails, and don't be too surprised if that happens in the young children. Generally, it's not going to be a chronic problem when they're that age, they're still growing, but you've got a lot of nail and skin moving around, so don't be surprised if that nail starts to push into some of that skin, especially when kids are wearing shoes that may be passed on from a brother or sister or aren't necessarily the best fit for them, okay? And finally, one thing that kids do tend to get more than adults is warts. Their immune system isn't built up as strong, and warts are a virus, so they tend to catch it a lot, and especially because they're barefoot around areas where there's other children, and they're also going into swimming pools a lot of the time. Okay, so keep an eye out for that very much, because it is something that you want to get on top of before they spread everywhere, and they very easily can. Now, of course, these are just a few common conditions we see in the clinic. There are a wide number of other conditions, just as in adults, that children can get. Some are very specific to children at certain ages. If you are concerned and there's anything you notice that you think might be off, consult with your nearby podiatrist, and hopefully that's us. Otherwise, take care guys, we'll see you in the next video.